Good morning, Cody. Oh, the pipe treatment, that's a good question. I completely forgot about it. It's been at it for a day and a half now. I'll go and get it. Good morning, Glenn O'Flaherty. Well, it's been in there twice now. Basically, people were wanting scot-free. People were telling me the whole time to put a pipe cleaner in there to plug it up, but I actually made a plug to go in it, just out of a bit of rod stock, which is obviously much more efficient. I think I'm going to blast the salt out. A lot of people said on Facebook, I put pictures up of this, and they said to use cotton wool. They don't use salt. They just use cotton wool balls with alcohol. It does the same thing. You bought 440. Awesome. Thank you very much. I just put up 441, and literally within minutes, it sold straight away, which is, I'm delighted. It's a real good feeling. It's always just difficult to know, when something sells, it's difficult to know why it sold so well. Sometimes you make a pipe that sells well, so you think, fine, I'll make another one of those, and then the second one will just sit there. So it's all about timing. The right person coming along and seeing the pipe and liking it doesn't mean that, lots of people are going to like it. So it's really just what I do is just whatever inspires me on a given day, unless it's a commission, of course. Right, should I have another stab at smoking this pipe? I suppose I should leave it to dry out now. I'm going to have to repolish it as well, because I did get alcohol on it. Thank you very much, Scott-Free, appreciate that. Do you do videos on your channel? Hey James, morning, how are you? Your pipe definitely used British tan. The only thing I can think of is, if you remember, I stained it originally and you said you preferred the British tan, so I sanded that and then put the British tan, but obviously there's always going to be some remnant left in the grain, so maybe that's why it's darker. Yeah, definitely. You can do it in my style. You don't have to put your face on the video if you don't want to. It's always good to see new people on. If you do decide to, let me know and I'll give you a shout out. Get you a bit of a head start with some subscribers. James, should I be leaving this now, maybe for a day or two before I smoke it, or will the alcohol just evaporate straight away? Because it's been sitting there for a couple of days now, so it's gonna have absorbed into the briar to some extent. I mean, I'm no expert when it comes to salt treatments. It's the first time I've done one. You let yours dry for how long? A week? Wow. And did the process work for you? Whatever it is were you trying to get out ghosting, or you just that's what you do to sanitize a pipe? Rinse it out with water. I suppose that's to just get rid of all the salt. And then if they do rinse it with water, then they would have to leave it to dry it out. Count Basingstoke, good morning. I'm assuming you live in Basingstoke. It's been a while since I've been down there. So we're going for a bent billiard. I've orientated the block to make the most of the grain, hopefully. So hopefully that'll be a nice pipe. In a previous life, I used to do some real estate management, some property management many years ago, and one of my employers had a shopfront property in Basingstoke, and I had to go and drive down there. The shop was empty. It had been vacated by the previous occupant. We're talking about 30 years ago. And I think that's the only time I've been there that I can remember. So I was there for maybe an hour. See, when I got to it, this was full of salt, but the salt was bone dry. So the chances are, because it's alcohol, it would have evaporated. I mean, when I got rid of all the salt, the bowl was wet. Obviously, there was still some alcohol there. But I think to be safe, I should leave it at least to air out for a day. And then I'll give it a new polish. Maybe I'll even sand it and just really spruce it up nicely. I mean, the grain, the sandblast on this is just ace. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful, beautiful ring grain. Really nice, deep, consistent ring grain there. Really gorgeous. That also actually indicates a piece of briar that has grown in a relatively consistent way, and it hasn't had any sort of real traumas and stuff like that. If the tree experts are to be believed on that point. Not missing much of Basingstoke. And that's the same everywhere, Count Basingstoke. The countryside is awesome. I'm in love with the countryside. In the summer holidays, we don't go to the beach or to some resort in Europe or something. We go to the countryside. We love the countryside. If I could, I'd move out to the countryside like a shot. My accent, I'm born and bred here in London, but it's kind of, I suppose, communal influences. It's a bit of a mixture of various different things, but it's basically I'm born and bred and buttered in the Bow Bells. My father was born in the East End of London, so he was a real Cockney Londoner, you know. So I'm kind of a product of that, but at the same time having gone to an inner London school, so had a bit more of a closer to the Queen's English, if you like, but still with that sort of East London influence. So there's kind of a cross in between the two. Some people sometimes say that I sound South African. South African! Some people say that I sound a bit Australian. It depends where the people are that are listening to me, you know. Well, I managed to get petrol last week, and I don't drive around that much anymore. So I've got 3/4 of a tank, so I'm in no particular rush. But I went yesterday to town to St James's for the first time in like 20 months. I had a meet up with Jack the Piper. We had a fantastic afternoon. There'll be a video up in the future on Jack's channel. Fantastic. We had a 2.5 hour chat upstairs in St James's, in JJ Fox's. We could have gone on all day, but we had a cigar each and just had a good chat. We exchanged a bunch of gifts. He gave me one of his cast tampers, you know, the Wizard tamper. He also gave me a home brew of tobacco, which he made about a year ago. I gave him tobacco, and I also bought his cigar on the day, and I gave him a pipe. I gave him the barrel pipe, he was so stoked by that. It was really cool. It was a great meeting anyway. It's always fantastic to meet people, you know, on the YTPC that you haven't met before. And I always say this, that, you know, when you meet people on the YTPC, you kind of, because you've interacted with people for a while, you know, there's no ice to break. You just get into a conversation and you talk about stuff which is common knowledge to you. Well, we're not actually meeting up at JJ Fox's. The Pipe Club of London is still not meeting. At the moment, JJ Fox's have not agreed for it to continue yet. When that will happen, I don't know. All right, Cody, have a good one. I look forward to that, Cody, no problem. Whenever you're ready. Right, now I need to decide on a stem material. That stuff I did yesterday or the day before, that grey and apricot ebonite, was quite nice. Interesting. It was different, something different. Where's the rest of that rod? Did I put it back? Yeah. It's a nice rootstock, this. It's really interesting. It's got like a matte grey look to it with an orange sort of swirl in there. You can see the rough sort of version of it, but it comes out differently when you cut into it. I'm really quite liking it. It's like a pastely grey with the orange. It's either that or I'm thinking maybe blue and white eldritch. For something different. It does look really nice when it's polished up. It's got a kind of a, like I was saying, a matte grey with that orange kind of breaking up that colour, so it contrasts beautifully. Pipe 440, which just sold yesterday. It's on my website. You can see that it's got that stem on it. It's really nice. 441, the Lovat, the featherweight Lovat, which I just finished last night. I uploaded it this morning, and literally I put it on my website. Literally within 5 minutes, it was sold, which is absolutely awesome. I think I just said that before. Not the blue. I really do quite like this. I might have to go get some more of this. It's a really nice stem material. Yeah, it's hi, Jack. It's good stuff. Eldritch stem is good stuff. The only thing you need to be aware of is that there's different densities of the coloration. That's all you need to be aware of. So one end is usually got more of a solid color, with sort of flecks of the other color, whereas it's much more evenly mixed on the other end. I guess it's to do with the centrifugal force of how the mixer does the stuff. But if you have a look at that end, you can see a good mix of blue and white. You look at that end, it's much more blue. So depending on the design of your pipe, it's just worth giving it a little bit of thought. Sometimes if you have a stem which has got some length to it, so you might want to have a darker end where it joins the shank. Say you've got a dark stain, so you might want a darker, sort of blends nicely into, transitions nicely into the stem, and then flows into a much more mixed color, and it really looks awesome. Or you could do it the other way around, where you go into a solid color from a multicolored sort of thicker part of the stem until it goes into the bit, which is a solid color. It's really a matter of design. But as long as you're aware of that, but once you get to the other end, maybe from about halfway on, then it's evenly, consistently mixed. So you just need to be aware of that. But I think it's actually a really good. It gives you options, and you can really put some thought into how you're designing the pipe. When I do pipes, I try to always think of zones. I've mentioned this before. I think of zones. So you've got 3 zones. The way I look at it, you've got the pipe, the shank with a band possibly, and you've got the stem. So if I put a band in, then the 3 zones are the pipe, the band, and the stem. If I don't put a band in, then the 3 zones are the bowl, the shank, and the stem. So sometimes that junction of the bowl, the shank, and the stem might sort of meld into one zone. Sometimes it won't, but it's along those lines. I always split it into 3 zones, and so you can use a band to break up the zones, or you could complement the zones. It really depends on what you're thinking of in terms of design. But I've found that it helps to do that. That's how I've evolved my process of design over a period of time. 440, 440, is it 9mm? I'm going to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check upstairs. If I don't say it, then usually it means it is 9mm. If it's not 9mm, I'll usually write not filtered. So the chances are it's 9mm, yeah. On my website, I don't think it says non-filtered on 440. But like I say, I'm not going to say 100%. I'll have to check it. Well, the good thing with stain is you can always sand it off and go again. So go with your gut. If you don't like it, try something else. It's just when you rusticate, that's when it's harder. I mean, once you've rusticated the pipe, you can't change the stain unless you re-rusticate it. So that you need to give some thought. Yeah, that 440 is the one with the apricot stem, but I just can't recall if it's 9mm or not. I think it is 9mm, but I have to go upstairs and check. But on the website it doesn't say that it's non-filtered, so the chances are it is filtered. This one, yeah, this is one of mine. This is a beautiful piece of briar. This one, actually, believe it or not, was supposed to be a cobra pipe, one of my cobras, but there's a couple of cracks at the top, which are like expansion cracks, they're fissures. But the grain looked so gorgeous, I just couldn't bring myself to just dump it. So I carried on and I sort of imagined the pipe and made it into a little apple. And it's stunning. It's got beautiful grain, beautiful bird's eye on the base, and this color scheme also worked out really well. It's quite a blonde kind of briar, quite a bright kind of colored briar. The yellow complements it very well, and I just used a faux horn band to break it up, and it just looks fantastic, and it smokes very well. It's a great pipe. I use it for all it golden sliced, and it's been great virtually from the first bowl. Quite a small bowl. I like to often have it in the morning with a coffee for my first bowl, which is what this is today. Morning, Tim. So I've been going sort of leaning towards slightly smaller pipes recently, and I just think that they're more of a daily kind of smoke workhorse kind of pipes, and getting that balance between it being lightweight and being robust enough for a daily workhorse. That's what I've been looking in. That's what I've been doing the past few pipes. So it's something like a group 3. Most of our pipes are either 4 or 5s up to now. But I'm now kind of trying to be somewhere between 3 and 4. I think that's just about the right size. Although the group size generally refers to the bowl capacity, but if you imagine the bowl capacity with a commensurate kind of shell, so sometimes you can have a tiny bowl but a huge pipe. Yeah, but I'm talking about one which is proportionate to the size of the bowl. There's two things I would suggest. One which I learned from Jack, and one which I've just tried and it's worked. I wouldn't say that I've done a real pencil shank. No, I've done really narrow shanks, but not. It depends what you call pencil shank. You know, the ones that what's her name does, Scotty Pearsall. You know, no, and I probably wouldn't because I mean I'm not really geared up for that. I think she probably puts a metal sleeve into those. You know, like the old Dunhill sort of whatever they call those things. Which I suppose I could buy that tubing, but I've done pipes which are fairly close, but not really long. I mean, the one that I did 440, I think, was quite a narrow shank. That was only you know 10 mil or 11 mil, something like that. Well, if it's a filtered one, that one must be a bit more. Stinger, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so ordering tobacco. If you order from, this is Jack's tip, if you order from smokingpipes.com, but buy one, maybe 2 tins at a time, and use their economy international shipping, which is a flat $10 fee. It's not tracked, it's not insured, so there is a risk, but generally speaking, those ones come through. It's when you order half a dozen tins and that kind of thing, then it kind of attracts attention, and then it's kind of a crapshoot. You don't know. Sometimes it'll come through, sometimes it won't. Sometimes I've had a box of Briar come through with a relatively small box, and I get charged customs. The other day I got a huge box with something like 25 blocks in it, and that came through without being stopped. But smokingpipes.com, buy 1 tin to try, maybe 2 max, but I would start off with 1, and so you pay the $10. It's about £7. It's worth it, and on the economy international shipping, and that should come to you within a week to 2 weeks. So that's worth trying. 4 Noggins is a good shout. I find their shipping a bit on the expensive side, but 4 Noggins I've ordered from many times, and I don't think I've ever had an issue with it. And the other one is Copper Joe's. Copper Joe's has got a very good record as well. Copper Joe's got a vast selection of tobaccos, and their stuff seems to get through. So those are the 3 that I would recommend. I've also in the past bought from Boswell's, and I've had very good record with them too, so that might be worth a try. Just drop them a note to say that you're overseas. They should package the box accordingly, and most of them will write on it hobby supplies or something like that, which again to some extent is a bit of a crapshoot. Sometimes it goes, sometimes it doesn't, but those few companies generally seem to get through okay. Mars Cigars, that's in America. I'll make a note of that. You buy from them regularly, enough to say that they're reliable? That's good to know. I'll give them a shout. Right, I'm just going to cut the block. It's got a really nice sort of tight plateau as well. I might leave the plateau on, we'll see. think I'm going to have to change my bandsaw blade soon. Making a lot of noise. I'll definitely have a look at that, Scot-free. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you, Jack. If there's no time like now to stock up on tobaccos, to sell your tobaccos. It's always been the case in the last decade. Any day that you think of it, that's the best day to do it. There's no better time because it's only going to get harder as you go along. And in America, they're talking about hiking up their taxes dramatically in the near future. It'll become not viable to buy. By the time you pay the shipping and the risk of paying customs, it's just not going to be worth it. Buying from Europe now is already pretty much not worth it anymore. Most of the German companies, they're charging a greater shipping cost because there's a Brexit fee, and then they declare it fully because they're sticklers for rules. So oftentimes you'll get done. McBarrel is pulling out of the UK. I did not hear that. That's news. It doesn't surprise me. Where did you hear that? When I did a search on that, it came up with something, a link to a comment on a UK website, but then it doesn't have it on there. It's about Dunning, it's not about McBaron, sorry. Did they say what their source was for saying that? I'll just get in touch with Per Jansen. He's the man, although he's now been moved on to a different post as well in the company. But well, I'll just send him a message to asking if that's true. We'll see if he responds. All right, Basingstoke, have a good one. Enjoy pretty Basingstoke. Yeah, I watched a bit of that one with Bremen Pipe Smoker, Mark. You can listen to his accent all day long. He's got a great accent with a very guttural tone to his speech. Old Dark Fired. I think I've tried it. I'm not sure. A lot of people love that stuff, but I may have tried it, but it's not a tobacco that I'm familiar with. Arturo Fuente cigars. I used to smoke a lot of them. Back in the day when I was off Cuban cigars, I went through about a year when I was extremely frustrated with Cuban cigars. They were so badly put together, so many tight cigars, and that's still the case, but it's just not as bad as it used to be. I got so fed up that I just stopped buying Cuban cigars. So I was smoking non-Cubans pretty much all the time, and I smoked a wide selection. Arturo Fuente was one of the central brands that I smoked, and I had a lot of the short stories, the Hemingway short story, which is that perfecto sort of double taper where it gets fat at the bottom like the one you've got. But I had them; they were really very short like that. They were called short story. Very very tasty cigars. A very middle of the road kind of flavor, not too spicy, not too mild. Just a good tobacco, good sort of nutty kind of creamy smoke. Very nice. They seem to go out of stock really quickly, so it kind of is a testament to how good they are. That's one of the comments I put on last night, which you didn't see, James, by the way. And one of the other comments, which I put up twice because you missed it, was when you were talking about the difference between the bit on the first pipe and the bit on the second pipe. And I was trying to tell you, although you did say it yourself in the end, but one is a hand cut stem and one was a pre-molded one, although it was reworked by me. But that was the difference. And there may have been a reason why I didn't file that pre-formed one down. Maybe the draft hole was, maybe it was getting close to the draft and I was worried about piercing it. I don't know. But the only way I would know is if you sent it back to me. But as you say, it's not the end of the world. So, but if ever, as I said, I'll repeat the offer. If at any time you do want to send it back, feel free. Yeah, the short stories are very popular, very popular. An hour 12 minutes. Okay, thank you, Jack. Well, let's have a listen. Hang on. A minute 12. Oh, I've just gone past it. That's where I was up to the last time I was watching it.
Second stage, and you have to go on and go on and go on as long as you're patient enough to do that.
It's right at the end of the
Red
video.
wine, eh? Sounds like you're making.
My absolute favorite tobacco is, I don't know, go more to the Mac Baren. So over the last few years, I don't know, these tobaccos are so thoughtfully done. And they really take their time to do it. They don't come up with tobacco every year. So they really take their time. And when they come up, normally it's properly done. So, and those roll cakes, they have been on the market for decades. And the spun cup, I really like that. So I also like dark twist. But the spun cup is even a bit more in everything. So a bit more sweetness. It's a bit stronger. Really interesting notes. So I really like that tobacco. Coming back to it over and over. So
It's unfortunate that Mac Baren are pulling out of the UK market, aren't they?
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They really do. Well, that's a hit. So
to be honest, over the years they've pulled more and more blends away anyway.
Yeah.
We don't have very many now at all. Whereas I used to be able to get, Virginia Number One and Old Dark Fired, and you can get the HH ones, but that's it. You used to be able to get London Burley, all the old blends,
Golden Extra Symphony.
Extra.
Yeah.
I've really been enjoying the Old Dark Fired recently. I've got another 10 on the way.
right, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is bad news. Yeah. Yeah.
But we're going to continue talking, but I think I'll probably end the recording.
Well, there you go. Well, it was Cass that mentioned it, but they all seem to be aware of it, besides for Mark. So it looks like it is a thing. But there's nothing online about it. I was looking on their news page on Mac Baren's website. It says that Mac Baren is taking over Planta in Germany. Well, that's a interesting development. I don't know how old this news is. I don't know when the last time they updated it. No, the website doesn't say anything about it. far as I can see. Oh well. Yeah, I don't know where they've got their information from, and maybe it's true, but yeah, the same. They were saying the same about Samuel Gareth not long ago, and they had to issue a statement saying that as baloney. I mean, I can understand, with the whole Brexit situation going on, that maybe it's precipitated this, because what Phil was saying is that it's true. They've withdrawn quite a range of the tobaccos from the UK market. A lot of it is possibly to do with our health and safety rules, and some of it will be because of it's not worth their while sending it. There's not enough sales. But I mean, they were talking about London Blend. That's just been discontinued. I don't think it's available in Europe either, unless they've brought it back. Yeah, haven't heard a whisper out of Jermaine's for a while now. Alright, I've sent a message to GQ Tobaccos as well. Let's see if I get an answer from somebody. Yeah, it was interesting that they were the 500 grams. I hadn't seen those in a long while. Usually the 500 gram bags don't get put up for sale. Those are just bulk bags, which the retailers then sell off in parts. The 250 ones were more common, but it's interesting that they were 500. Yeah, you had the Jermaine's, you had the drop in the US, but we haven't had one here for a while. As far as Mac Baren is concerned, I don't think it'll affect me in a big way, because here in the UK most of it comes in pouches, and I don't like buying pouches, so I'll usually get it from Europe anyway, or from America. And the vanilla cream, I've got a reasonable amount. I wouldn't mind getting some more of the flake though. I've got a few tins of the roll cut. I've got a bulk jar of the loose cut. So I think I'm okay. I mean, I'm not storing for 50 years. I haven't really counted it or worked out on average how many years I've got, but I've come to the decision that if I finish a particular tobacco, I'll just learn to enjoy something else. I've got a reasonable amount of tobacco. That if I'm really that desperate, I'll smoke whatever I have, really. It's just an indication of the way things are going. It's going to be harder and harder. We've been saying that for a while, and it's now kind of coming to pass. It really is. I mean, if truth of the matter is, we've all been talking about the FDA and things like that, about them sort of bracketing pipe smoking together with cigarette smoking and so on. If you look at the history in this country of cigarette costs, when I smoked cigarettes, we're talking 35 years ago, I paid around £1, £1.10, £1.15 for a box of 20 cigarettes. Now they're about £12 in the shops. So they've had a ridiculous increase in price in taxes. So it's definitely not the same as pipe tobacco. If I was a cigarette smoker, I would be going crazy. The price is just crazy. £12 for a box of cigarettes for one pack. It's madness. So in the grand scheme of things, for a little bit more than that, you get a tin of tobacco, and you'll have maybe 15 or 20 bowls of tobacco. It's not like 20 cigarettes. Each cigarettes last you 2-3 minutes, whereas a bowl of tobacco can give you hours of enjoyment, and one tin, could give you weeks of enjoyment. So there's definitely a better value in pipe tobacco. Paul Laranaga Galanes hit shops next week. I haven't heard about that particular Vitola. What size is that? Is that what it is? Because the people have been selling it as pipe tobacco. I had heard that a lot of the native Indian sort of territories, they've been selling a lot of rolling tobacco, and people just making cigarettes from that. So maybe that's part of the issue. Oh, nice, 52 ring gauge, 4.5 inch. That's right up my perfect kind of Vitola. I have noticed as well cigar prices online as well starting to creep up. To be honest, James, I don't know if the RDF was from a new drop or not, because it wasn't on the website. So I don't know if it was something that he'd kept back or not. I have no idea. Okay, I'm going to look out for those Paul Larranaga ones. That sounds nice. And being able to buy them in tens is nice as well. Makes it a lot more reachable. I don't think we've seen the end of the repercussions of the pandemic. If anything, we're only just starting. It's the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to be suffering for years to come. Pricing is going to go up on so much stuff. We've seen already about the second-hand car market going up, skyrocketing, because there's a dearth of new cars because they haven't got the parts to put the cars together. That's just one area. So the second-hand car market has gone way up. But there's going to be a fallout, I think, over the next 5 to 10 years, which is going to affect the world economy for quite some time. I don't know. I don't know how the Germain's marketing works. I've got no idea. Impossible to predict. See, most manufacturing processes in any kind of industry, there's usually a constant supply. You know, a supplier will have a stock, and when a retailer runs out of stock, they'll phone up the supplier. Please, can I have so much and so much of this and that and the other? They'll take it off their shelves and send it. It doesn't seem to work that way with Germain's, either because their production is too small and the popularity is too high. Not too high, but very high. It can never be too high. Popularity is a good thing. So they can never fulfill the amount of orders they have, and they're just playing catch up all the time. That must be what's going on. It's a small company, they're not expanding. Perhaps hit by staff shortages due to COVID. You just have to hope and pray that it doesn't seem to indicate any kind of fatal challenges. Right, first bowl down. Let's get on with this pipe. To the US, it's Orango, yeah. They're the importers. In America, it's Orango. Here, Germain's just sends direct to suppliers, as far as I know, to tobacconists. Yeah, I mean it's a family-run business, and I don't know if their younger generation is continuing or not. They're notoriously difficult to talk to, so I don't know. I have spoken to them a few times in the past. I've mentioned this plenty of times. I wanted to know about the contents of RDF and Stonehaven and the comparison. People have made, people have done back-to-back reviews, comparisons of the two, and to me there was maybe a slight difference, but there was never a great difference. If anything, the difference was from one batch to another rather than a difference in the blend. And I still find that today, to this, I've got Rich Dark Flake of different batches, and they're very different. Sometimes it arrives to you mature, sometimes it arrives to you quite green, and you have to wait for it to mature. In my current jar of RDF, I think I've got, in my one that I'm smoking at the moment, there's maybe 1 or 2 flakes left, if that. Then I've got another full jar which is from I think 2020 or early this year, 21. And when I got it, it didn't smell like RDF. It did not have that signature aroma, that like wine, champagne-y, sweet kind of aroma. But when I smell it now, a few months down the line, that aroma's coming. It's still fermenting. It's still melding. It's still developing. So maybe they just didn't have the time to let it sit and age because they weren't being able to catch up with their orders. So they just shipped what they had, which even though it wasn't quite ready. So I've just left it in the jar and I'm letting it do its thing. So I think the difference between RDF and Stonehaven, although there is a small difference, I don't think that's significant enough to warrant smoking one rather than the other. Although I know, James, you do prefer one than the other. But I think it's more about the difference in batches than that. I spoke to Robert Germain, and he said to me that there is no real difference between the two. The only difference is ingredients which are allowed in some countries and not in others. So Stonehaven has ingredients which are not allowed here, that kind of thing. Or sometimes it's to do with the licensing, because that blend is licensed out to Orango, the Stonehaven blend, so they can't replicate it exactly here, so there has to have a minute difference. He said that's the only difference between Stonehaven and Rich Dark Flake, but he said they're essentially the same. So that's from guys at Germain. Where are you based, Scott Free? Whereabouts? Colorado. I don't know if they tripled their price, whether, I'm not so sure people will buy it. You hate one and love one. So what you're saying is you don't like Stonehaven, but you do like Rich Dark Flake because I see you smoking that all the time. Really? That's interesting. I haven't smoked Stonehaven for a long time. I have maybe 2 or 3 bowls left of my jar. My jar is from 2016, and that came from a bag, from a gold bag, an 8-ounce bag originally. Good morning, John. How are you? When I was buying gold bags back in, I don't know, 2016, that kind of time, I was really hunting them in those days. I was paying about $58 for a gold bag, and I was getting them mostly from Boswell's at the time. It was ridiculously cheap compared to what we were paying here. This is the pipe I did the salt treatment on. It's definitely got a fresh smell. It doesn't have that really dank, stale tobacco aroma that it had before. That's good. That seems to be good. We'll let it dry out a bit longer. Yeah, I suppose you're right, James, actually. Come to think of it, I think you're right. People would pay more. People are already. You're quite right. I take that back. But I don't know how that would be taken by the market, because it's all well and good on the grey market, people overpaying for something, but if they retailed at that price, I don't know. I think it would affect the market, because then other companies would do the same. They just may not sell as well as Germain's, I guess. Right, let's get on with the day's work, because we're not getting anything done well, which I think, as much as I love to chat to you guys, I do need to get some work done. Supply and demand, yeah, you're right, James. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean that's due to shortages, I think, as well. The machinery is selling out very quickly because people are working from home a lot, and people are finding industries where they can make some money at home, I think, as well. And because parts are harder to get, I reckon that must have an effect on it. But yeah, prices are going up for sure. Mm. So what's Ryan's name? Has he got a channel? I saw you mention him yesterday, but I don't know his stuff. I don't think I've ever seen his pipes. How long has he been making pipes for? You have his first pipes. Showed his first pipe. Sent me pics. You sent it now, or you sent it to me before? Smoking Noel Bryce. What's his name? Ryan what? There's a whole crop of new pipe makers out there these days. You know me? Yeah, a skill that Mike's been championing recently, isn't it? And y'all okay. Gee. Morning, Ross. missed it. All right, Tom. Have a good one. Well, I've just heard back from GQ Tobaccos, and he says that there was a rumor a few months ago about them pulling out of the UK market, McBaron, but he says as far as he's aware, they're just working out the best way to import the stuff to the UK, and at the moment it's just a rumor. So let's hope. A pipe. I bet billiard. Lovely job. How you been keeping, Steve? All right? All right, mate. so that's where we're at the moment. Quite a decent bend on the pipe. So that's going to sort of fan out and get wider as it goes up. That's what all the sanding I was doing before. Doing it on the lathe just helps you get a good circular sand without sort of changing the shape of the rod. Well, that sounds bad, Josh. Morning. That's where we're at so far. Yes, Gary, every cloud has a silver lining. The problem is it's full of water. And that's what his school has just found out. Sorry to laugh. But yeah, I thought it was funny. Nice one, Gary. Yeah, blame me, why not? Yeah, I don't know why it keeps losing connection for a few seconds each time. I don't know why. Sorry about that. See you, Steve, Kathy. Thanks very much. Yeah, sounds like it. Well, to be honest, most days it's actually been pretty good. It's actually been not bad. Guys, it keeps clicking in and out, so I'm going to have to pause it here. It's come on a little bit later when we're near a completion. Thanks, everybody.